testing my voice. I'm recording live now, live streaming.
Hi, all. Hi, Aki. It's probably because I'm excited to be joining you guys. Hi, Cube.
Hey folks, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yep.
Cool. All right, well, we might as well go ahead and get started. Alexa, anything new on kind of product side of things?
No, I've distributed the build information out to a few people that are starting to take a look. And we're starting to write up test plans. For some of you that have known me in different roles here at the company, I've been with the company for 10 years, and after 8 years with QA, I asked to do something different, and I am lucky enough now to be a senior product manager for Second Life. Which anybody that knows me, this is my absolute love and my passion more than anything else. I've been a resident since 2004, and I am thrilled to be working on Animesh with Veer.
All right, well, welcome aboard. I didn't remember if we had previously introduced Alexa at the last meeting or not. I guess maybe we hadn't. Anyway, looking forward to working with Alexa more, and let's see, we might as well jump into what's going on. We don't really have a lot of new stuff to talk about with Animesh this week. The thing I've been working on most recently is actually this rendering cost calculation update stuff that we've talked about before. A lot of people have pointed out that there's places where our calculations on that sort of thing aren't very accurate, which then doesn't create the right incentives for people to make efficient content. So we're hoping to make those calculations more accurate. Part of the process for that is we're going to run a bunch of tests with getting people to run through the same outfits with different graphic settings and different machines, and put that in a big stat crunching hopper and see where it takes us. So we're trying to get that underway. Hopefully get some of this stuff out for external testing in the not too distant future, and we'll keep you posted on how that stuff all goes. Let's see. At some point, I'm hoping we can get a hold of Ryder to talk about Project EAP. This actually isn't only a meeting about Animesh, although you might think so if you've been here the last few weeks. Ryder's working on an interesting project to make environment settings more asset-like, basically making it easier to create settings and share settings and make settings available per parcel and various goodies like that. I don't know a lot of the details, but hoping to drag him in to talk about it one of these weeks. And I'll keep you posted on that. Let's see, what else? No, I think that's about it. I'll back up in the chat and see if I missed anything. Yes, let's see. Everyone wants the viewer, and we will get you the viewer as soon as we can. So I guess that's it. We're open for questions. Oh, I should also mention schedule-wise, we are not planning to have meetings for the next couple of weeks. I will be out, and our next scheduled meeting is August 31st. As usual, people are welcome to hang out here and chat during the other meeting times or any other times for that matter, but the next time I'll be around will be end of August. So, open discussion. Anything people want to talk about other than when the viewer's coming out? Gab, I do not know a ton about the material renderer. I've overlapped it a little bit in the sense of having to figure out where the textures were being stored and that sort of thing for cost calculations, but I haven't really worked with the rendering code. Yeah, as far as I know, there isn't any good public info on that. I can ask around if anybody knows about stuff that I don't, and if I find anything, I'll pass it along. The walk run speed, nothing happening on that immediately. We've pulled that Jira in because it kind of ties into some discussions we were having about changing animation playback speeds. Obviously, that would be one aspect of it. And the next time we would potentially be looking into that would be when we do the next round of animation updates, which would also include uh, getting the ability to have extend the animation overrides and have kind of secondary overrides like wing flaps, that sort of thing. But that's about all I can tell you about it right now. It's just in the bucket of stuff I want to look at, but we don't have a detailed spec of exactly what's going to get done when we're working on that, and we're not working on it yet.
I'll break in to answer that question that just came up in chat. Yes, experiences will be able to control the environmental stuff. There have been some other projects that have bubbled up higher on my priority queue over the last 2 weeks. So my progress has been slow.
I told them we were hoping to get an update for you at some point, but whenever you get a chance to rebubble things.
Exactly. Yes, fine grained, so individual parameters. I am looking forward to that, Neo. More or less.
Let's see. We have one question about why creating experiences is premium only. I don't know specific history on that. Obviously, we're always looking for ways to add value to the premium experience for the people who choose to do that, but don't have any particular comment otherwise. Question about getting script memory improved. Yeah, I'm not sure where that would fit in the priorities. We have increased some limits over time, of course, in terms of how many objects you can have in regions and that sort of thing. But I think the script limits have been where they are for quite a while. It's certainly possible we'd look at that at some point, but I don't know any specific plans along those lines. I mean, there is. I thought in the maybe it was in the test content when we were first doing Bento. I thought we had some stuff available that had kind of meshified versions of the standard system avatars. It's kind of questionable how much you'd want to do with those because they don't really have enough detail. If you want to do something like finger tracking, you really need more triangles than that. But I thought some of that stuff was actually out there for download. Yeah. Anyway, other than that, of course, we have talked about the idea of having more dev kits and more test content in general at past meetings. I still think that would be a really good idea, but nothing new about that this week. Okay, so it does look like we have some models here. As I say, I think some of these are adapted straight from the mesh. They're meshified versions of the system avatars, which means they don't have a ton of detail. But at least there are some things there that one could play around with in terms of sample content. Obviously, the fact that it's filed under Project Bento testing suggests that we need to, find the time to do a little more organization on our test files.
Dates with baking, texture baking on meshes?
Still working on that. I think where we are right now is that the updated baking service is getting tested on one or more of the development grids. It's not really ready for Aditi yet, but it's in a kind of a pre-Aditi state, getting hammered on a bit. So yeah, hopefully we can keep that moving down the pipeline.
Do you guys plan on adding bones to the armature for skirts and capes and such?
We probably won't be doing any new bone updates anytime soon. We did add a pretty large set of bones for the Bento project last year. Of course, you can repurpose those joints for other things. I think Medu has some videos up about that where he has reused the bones for lots of other things like elephant trunks and so forth. And of course, you could do the same thing to use them for capes or skirts. Use the wing bones for a cape or something like that. I'm sure that there are additional things that could be done with more bones, but since we already have a pretty large number at this point, I think making additional changes would probably be not an immediate priority right now.
Is there any possibility of an update ever allowing us to change the bone hierarchy?
Well, I wouldn't say never for much of anything, but making supporting custom skeletons was something that we looked at a bit for the Bento project, and just decided it didn't really fit within the scope of the resources we had available. So I think that's always the challenge. It's just balancing it against other possible projects, and so my expectation would be that that's probably not something we're going to be looking at in the immediate future. Our near-term roadmap is Animesh, bakes on mesh, and then a kind of a second stage Animesh that lets you combine baked mesh and some other features to have support for more kind of NPC-like behavior. Beyond that, it's all TBD, but that'll certainly keep us busy for a while.
Oh, I was just going to say, Medu has a video out that if you want to use bones for different things, like Medu's elephant video, he uses bones that are not in the same hierarchy. They're not actually connected together to actually create the trunk. You just have to create all your own animations for everything, walking and sitting and running, if you're going to be using bones in different orders.
Well,
and it's a
yeah,
great video
but
to do
if
that.
you wanted to have that trunk stemming off of the right hand or something, that's not something that's currently feasible.
No, you could do it. You just have to make your own animations.
So basically, you're using the animation to have the effect of overriding the actual hierarchy, which is going to make your animations more expensive, I would assume.
What you're basically, now that we have bone translation, you can move bones wherever you want. So if you wanted like a completely different skeleton, what you would do is you would create that skeleton in the hierarchy that you want, and then you would attach or constrain the Second Life bones to that custom skeleton. And then you can get it to work however you want, with whatever hierarchy you want. There is a limit as to which bones are going to work best with that bone translation, but that's something you kind of have to work out.
Right, like you found out that the elephant's trunk, since it was a part of the head, and when you move your mouse around and your avatar's head tracking goes wherever, you know, your mouse is looking or whatever, that, yeah, for the trunk bones, you basically want to be using bones from the face, so that when the head turns, it all moves together, even, you know, even if you have the full animation. So that's what Maybe was talking about, as far as there are some limitations that you got to be aware of. But yeah, pretty much it allows you to do whatever you want, you know, as long as you understand the limitations. Like I wouldn't want to use an eye bone for something unless you're going to lock that eye bone so it doesn't, you know, an MI bone so it doesn't move when, you know, you move your mouse around, you know, if you're using it for a different purpose.
I guess I should point out that the question of having custom skeletons isn't a purely technical one. I mean, it would be quite a bit of work to get that to be supported, but then you also have the question of kind of how do you determine compatibility, right? You've got you know, different objects that want different skeletons, and then, you know, which objects can you combine with which other objects, and, you know, can I use these wings with this you know, with this you know, with this body or whatever. And obviously, anytime you're customizing the skeleton the way that Kathy suggested, you're going to have the same issues. You want to make sure that you don't have two different objects that are fighting over the same joints and trying to use them in a different way. But you know, you kind of have to formalize that and track it at the level of different objects, different animations, and so forth. So that would also be an additional thing that would have to be looked at. Let's see, backing up through the chat to see if I missed anybody. There's one question about attaching a rigged mesh onto an animesh. Not, yeah, I think the answer to that is kind of yes and no. If the attachment is a rigged mesh, then it doesn't really need to be an attachment. It just needs to be you know, animated against the same skeleton. And, you know, with Animesh, basically what you're animating is a single link set that can contain multiple meshes. So you could, if you had a you know, a mesh body and a mesh dress, you know, you could make one link set out of both of those mesh objects, and then could animate those with Animesh, which would give you basically the same effect as having it be an attachment. Having it act like a static attachment, like putting a hat on your head, would actually be harder. We don't we don't have any plans to support that immediately. Certainly, at the stage we go to Project Viewer, that's not going to be in there. Yeah, there's a question about why would we want to apply sliders to Animesh. I doubt that we would ever actually support sliders in the sense that you right click on your Animesh and you bring it up and you tweak the sliders. That would be kind of cool, but it's not strictly necessary. But what would be nice would be the ability to take an existing body shape and which basically encodes all of the slider values and then use that with your Animesh. So basically those values would need to get read and applied to the skeleton. That's what gives you the ability to customize height or width or various things. So the stage at which it would be possible to do that would be after we've had some work updating the baking service, right? Basically, you'd need to have the baking service able to take an Animesh, look inside it to see if it has a shape, and then use that shape to send you the information about your params. That's the way it currently works for avatars, and we would basically need to extend the baking service so that it could do the same thing with animated objects. So the hope is that we'll be able to do that in the kind of second stage Animesh project, but it's not part of the first stage that we're trying to get out to Project Viewer now. Yeah, early access. So if I have this right, you want the project viewer right away, and you also want a bunch more features added to it. Is that right?
We want the viewer now so we can tell you about the other features we want.
Yeah, well, that's actually basically what I'm shooting for. We did the same thing with Bento. We got something that worked reasonably, but certainly wasn't the final word, and then we got it out in a test form, and got a lot of good feedback from content creators trying to actually do stuff with it. So I would anticipate that things would go the same way with this. That doesn't mean that we're going to wind up adding everything that people ask for. And if we do add everything, it's not all going to be in the same viewer release. But we are looking to get all the feedback we can. And yes, the repo is public. If anybody wants to look at it, it's right there.
Vera and I can talk about this after the meeting, make sure we have the documentation, testing regions, everything set up, and then figure a date to communicate this out to everybody.
Yeah, things are coming along. We've got some testing going on now with the Animesh viewer. It's not completely in the development stage right now, but there are a couple of additional things we really need to tackle before it's in a kind of publicly presentable form. So, as we've been saying all along, we'll get it out as soon as we can.
It's nice to hear that it's coming along. Locky, the first Animesh objects are going to be all the rigged objects that are already in Second Life.
Tech
Yep,
Wolf.
that's basically how we've been doing testing so far, is adapting existing mesh avatars into Animeshes. I have to admit, we haven't really been exercising the adult content side of things much, but I'm confident that you guys will.
Never change. Second Life, never change.
All right. Any other questions? Did I miss anybody? Yeah, I'm really on Second Life full time, but it is really exciting to hear about Sansar getting it into open beta and seen a lot of interesting comments on it so far.
I will say that I've seen some interesting things that probably aren't obvious to the average person, but it's really interesting to me. And I don't know, something strange showed up in my inventory, and I won't talk more about it, but anyway.
Yeah, I'm a little handicapped by not having the VR set up. Maybe Lyndon wants me to have a VR set up. What do you think, Alexa?
Hmm.
Business expenses go.
No, then we'll lose you.
Never get them back once they go for the VR.
Oh, by the way, speaking of sensor, do you guys like have like a term or an idea of like how much time it would take for like pretty much everyone to start migrating over to sensor from Second Life?
Well, all I can say on the Second Life side is, we're gonna keep running it as long as people want to keep using it and continue to make improvements. How quickly people will adopt Sansar is entirely up to them, and I guess it's outside the scope of this meeting.
Earlier you said it was Ryder that's working on the environment stuff.
Yep.
Yes.
Any chance we could hear some more about that?
Well, beyond the document that I put out about 2 or 3 weeks ago, maybe longer. I don't have a lot to add at the moment. What we're going to be doing is making environment settings, such as wind light skies and wind light water. Those will be inventory objects that you can buy, sell, trade. You will be able to apply those on a per parcel basis. The day cycle will be configured. Right now, it's fixed at 4 hours. It will be configurable up to essentially up to a week. You could have a day in Second Life that lasts a week. Let's see. I'm going to be opening up some of the parameters that you can't change now, like the moon texture, the cloud textures. There's a bit of a stretch going for late in the project, where I want to add a few more parameters for things like God rays and distance fog, and this will be controllable on a per agent basis through scripts. So that's it. That's it in a nutshell.
That sounds pretty spiffy. Ryder, do you happen to have the document link?
One moment, I will look for it.
Better than Animesh. What? Oh, it's on now.
Dueling projects.
Find it. Let's see here. There we go. So that's just a so that document is just a kind of a thumbnail, a little bit pretty much what I just recited there.
I see there's a question back here about the permission system and extending the permissions limit. I'm not sure what that's in reference to. Is that for the environment stuff or something else?
You can certainly advocate for mirrors.
We had a discussion one week about mirrors where we concluded that it would probably slow you down by a factor of 2 for every mirror you put in the scene, and that would be kind of a downside.
That's going to deter people.
Okay, I didn't say it would deter people. I just said it was a downside.
You'd end up with people putting mirrors everywhere.
SL already runs at 2 frames a second. What difference does it make?
Yeah, wait, you'll see the mirror ball heads. It'll be awesome.
I was going to say, somebody's going to do a mirror ball.
There were a couple of questions about improving terrain, resolution of terrain textures, and adding materials. I don't think anything super soon on either of those, but they would be nice.
The terrain stuff is a little out of scope for this.
My impression is that a lot of the issue with terrain isn't so much the resolution of the texture as the kind of texel density that things are set a little too widespread, and so everything looks blurry. Aki, which restriction on the mainstream viewer? Yeah, I mean the thing about pixel size is, you couldn't just change it because it would break all the existing content, or at least change, how it looked. You'd have to have some facility for, letting people tweak it and, send out the information about what it got changed to and so forth. It's, kind of a project in its own right.
What about adding a layer?
You mean kind of multiple diffuse textures layered on top of each other?
Right, exactly. So you're not changing the original, but the one on top could be totally different.
Yeah, well, that would be one way to do it. Or of course, you could just make the pixel size customizable, but leave the same default as we have now too, so then people wouldn't get a change unless they asked for it. And yes, layered materials would be nice for other things too. It's true. There's a question a little ways back about listing some best practices for content creators. Yeah, I mean this falls under the heading of we should have more sample content and more documentation to help people get started. I'm still hoping we can do that at some point, but nothing new on that this week. If you had an Animesh project viewer, you'd just complain about not having any public regions to use it in. Question about the performance impact of Animesh. I think we're going to know more about that once there's an actual project viewer out and people get a chance to start piling on. As we mentioned, there's going to be some restrictions on Animesh to try to make sure that it doesn't completely clobber performance, but we don't know yet what all the limits are going to be. It could be things like how many can be in the scene, what the maximum complexity can be on them, if they're attached, how many can be attached per avatar, various possibilities. But I think what pretty much has to be out and getting tested by a lot of people before we really have a good idea how it's going to work out in practice. Question about making more building-centered islands. Are you thinking about just kind of open regions where people can build stuff, or are you thinking about having, kind of sample content and documentation and so forth hosted there?
Hello? Anybody? Can you hear me?
I hear you.
Okay, sorry about that. I'm like, wait a minute, why am I not talking? Okay. You know how there is, like, how was the ivory towers and the building brewery, things like that. But would it be cool if Linden Labs did something like that officially? That way we can spread the proper building terms there and just boot new builders there if they need help with something, instead of relying on the players to do it. And they're like, hey, if you want to keep this island of learning going, we need donations or something like that. Well, there is the brewery, but ew. Sorry, I'm not a big fan of the brewery, but I'm just saying it would be cool if Linden Labs had their own kind of thing. No, I didn't get banned. I just don't like the attitude of some of the teachers there, and that's what made me start my own thing.
Don't the Builders Brewery people have a hatred of mesh stuff and insist on doing everything with prims or something?
It's not so much the hatred of mesh stuff. It's just I don't like learning on somebody else's schedule. If we should have the information like there, like the big library or Wiki Island or something, where you can go there and look up or show you how to do things where the documentation is there and then there's videos and people help build it, rather than that be something that a fan or a player has to do and then they're like, oh, we can't keep this up because we don't have the money, we need donations, and when the money goes out, the place goes with it and the learning goes along with it.
It's an idea I can run by the LDBW team.
That chipper voice just gives me hope. Okay.
All right. Well, I think we're about at time. Any more questions? Maybe we have time for one more.
Carly's not gone. He is using his talents across the company. Who doesn't want Torley? No, he's not being used for Starbucks runs.
That's why nobody's bringing me any coffee.
Well, that's a long run from Seattle.
Yeah, but Seattle coffee's the best. All right, Lucille, we'll get right on that.
And
All
on
right.
that note, I think we're done.
Yeah, I'm out of here. So as I mentioned, we're off for a couple of weeks. I'm going to be running around doing vacation-y things, and we'll see you guys end of August.
Thank you
I'll
all.
jump in. Thank you all. I'll jump in real quick on Eldon's question. The answer there is I do not know.
Nice meeting all of you and seeing familiar faces. Bye.